Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. Now I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit-Down. Oh, it's spoiler time, and it gets me. For some reason, lately, saying spoiler is getting me in like a singy mood. I almost went into another singy bit, which we did in the last spoiler review for this show, which I take it how you want. I don't know, it just comes sometimes. But anyway, we're getting ready to talk spoilers about my new favorite TV show. It's on Disney Plus. It's in the Star Wars universe, and it is marvelous. And this episode might be my favorite to date. I didn't outrank the first episode on the first watch. After watching it again, really diving in there 2-3 times on all these bad boys. This is great. The length of these makes it easy to rewatch them multiple times, so it doesn't eat up a ton of your time. Oh, did I fall in love with this thing on the rewatches. It is just c'est magnifique. And the person that it's coming from this time behind the camera is very important to where we're going in the future for Star Wars. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-filled into The Mandalorian Chapter 3, The Sin. And as I said, the director here, and shame on me for not mentioning her in my non-spoiler review. I really have been trying to be as brief and quick and in and out as possible with those, and I glossed over bringing her up. I apologize because she is dead center in this episode and is dead center for her upcoming Star Wars project. This is Deborah Chow's first directing foray into Star Wars. Not only her first, this is the first Star Wars live-action anything directed by a woman, and she crushed it. And we get another woman this coming week. Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron Howard's daughter, is directing episode 4, which is exciting. I really liked what she did with Black Mirror when she directed that episode. And coming from Ron, the Ron Howard tree, so to speak, I'll be interested to see her take on some Star Wars stuff and see if she can deliver something that's just as rock solid as what Deborah Chow delivered. And man, does she do some good work. And the reason to get excited about what Deborah Chow does in this episode, from the directing to the visualization, to the flow and the way that the episode moves, everything that's working so well, the things that she stages and gets accomplished in the episode, should be getting you super excited, because this is the woman who is going to be in charge of the Obi-Wan series. And the Obi-Wan series, I don't even know if I need to say it, but for Star Wars fans, anything that's come from Disney thus far, the Obi-Wan series has got to be the thing people are most excited about. At Star Wars Celebration, we saw Mr. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor himself, and he was like, Kathleen, ask me if I'll come back to play Obi-Wan again. She's like, Ewan, will you come back and be Obi-Wan again? And he goes, yes. Oh, man, it got me so excited. And knowing that Deborah Chow is going to be running it there gets me even more excited, because what she does in Chapter 3, The Sin, is some big-time stuff, man. She really helps build the lore out, and she gives us some really wonderful visual moments. Oh, the end of this episode. Oh, man, like, you got everything you wanted in a Mandalorian show at the end of this. This is wonderful. Let's do it right and start from the beginning and work our way through this wonderful 30 minutes that Deborah Chow brings us. And we pick right back up where we left off. Mando's heading back toward that bounty hunter planet, and Baby Yoda is awake, and we see him kind of moving in the background as Mando gets an incoming call from Carl Weathers. This little hologram image pops up, and Weathers is like, hey, I got your message. That's great. I'm glad you got the bounty. You got the package. I just spoke to the client. Go straight there, man. Don't even come anywhere else. Just go straight there. Drop that thing off, man. Go get your money. And he's like, I don't know if this, I don't know if he wants to eat the thing or hang it on a wall. It's one of my favorite lines from this episode. Whatever it is, man, he's like, just go straight there, and good work. And while that's going on, Mando's distracted by Carl Weathers. Oh, Baby Yoda pops up to the drive shaft, the thing that powers the spaceship, and on top of it is like this little ball, and he unscrews it and starts playing with it. And as the call ends, Mando realizes what's going on, and he grabs Baby Yoda. He does what he's so good at and puts him back in the egg basket, takes the ball. He's like, that's not a toy, and like screws it back on because it's attached to the thing that powers the ship. You definitely don't want Baby Yoda playing around that bad boy. But nevertheless, he cut back to Baby Yoda, and he looks so sad. Like he was like, like kind of like, why'd you take away that thing that I liked playing with, Mando? Come on, I thought we were cool, bro. Just these little looks and things this puppet is doing, it just melts your heart and steals your heart and soul, and you just. God, I love Baby Yoda. If you haven't figured that out, 3 of these spoiler reviews in, I'm obsessed with Baby Yoda. But anyway, he lands back down on the planet, and Baby Yoda is in his little egg capsule, which is following Mando as he walks to where he's got to go, and you're seeing his little ears flap in the wind. It's just everything about this thing is so cute. I can't get over it. Anyways, he goes back to Werner, and while he is, again, we're walking through this little town, and just the richness of the different aliens and creatures and people that are inhabiting the planet. Like I said, I love anytime we're just walking with Mando in this show. I don't need a ton of dialogue, man, if what you're visually giving me is satisfying me. And watching him walk around and just seeing all the different types, the diverseness in the cast of aliens that are in front of us, just adds such a richness to the world. I mean, we get to see a couple Jawas actually on the bounty hunter planet. So you're like, that they're out and about, man. They're traveling around. They ain't just on Tatooine. They ain't just on that desert planet that we were just at. They're all over the place. I love those moments. But he walks back to the client's place. The little ball comes out again. He has it scan the chip. It opens the doors. We see Mando come into that back room where he was last time with Werner. And we got some stormtroopers are around. The doctor is there. And Doctor scans Baby Yoda and is like all healthy. And while they're standing there, Mando goes, "What? How many fobs you give out?" Because ran into a couple of them with the Nikto. Obviously, the IG-11 had one, but I don't think that fob came from Werner, because IG-11 wanted to terminate Baby Yoda. Werner did not want that, or at least the Doctor didn't want that, and that was relayed to Mando. Werner's like, "Look, this is an extreme importance to me. I had to give out as many as I needed to in order to make sure the asset was brought back here, and clearly you were the right guy. Now it's here. Take your money." He gives Mando all of the steel. We see Baby Yoda taken into the back room with Dr. Pershing, and he looks back, dude. He looks back at this, the puppetry work on this freaking cute little Baby Yoda, and just the little things. This is one of those shots where it's like, you just see him look back, and he kind of cries out to Mando, and you're just like, your heart breaks, because you're like, oh my gosh, man, like Baby Yoda just put together that Mando was not there to save him. Mando just picked him up and dropped him off to something else that's bad. And he just kind of like does this little cry out, and they go into this back room. That leads Mando to ask a very important question that kind of goes against his own code, the code of the guild, as it were. He goes to Werner. He's like, "So what are you going to do with it?" And Herzog looks at him. He goes, Isn't it the guild's code, like, to forget about these things once the job is done? The job is done. Take your reward. Go get yourself some new armor, because you clearly need it, and leave it. That's it. That's all you need to know. Mando does as told. He takes all the steel and he walks out, man. And as a fan, your heart breaks just a little bit, because that image of Baby Yoda crying out to him is in your head, and you're just like, no, man, like, I like that Mando is about his job. He does his work and he keeps moving. But like, not this situation, Mando. Like, don't let Baby Yoda into the hands of Empire fans, or people that want to see the Empire come back. Like, why? It just kills you. And the other thing that Herzog says too, that I think is kind of important before he kind of ushers Mando out, is he goes, in these trying times, is it not harder to find a Mandalorian than steel? That was his thing. He's like, take your steel, get out here. Mando grabs the steel, leaves, heads back to the Covert. This is one of my favorite sequences in the episode, and the Covert quickly becoming one of my favorite places. This is the sequence at this location that really gives you a vibe of John Wick, where it feels like the Continental, man. This is where all the Mandalorian hang out, and we see ton of them this time, right? Last time we just kind of saw Mando come in, talk to the armorer. This time around we just see a whole bunch of them, and Mando heads to the armorer, boom, slaps down all the Beskar steel, and is like, look, I don't need like I need a whole new armor set. And the armorer's like, it's gonna draw attention, but I can do it for you. And while she's taking, things are starting to go, this huge Mandalorian comes walking in. And the voice sounded very familiar, and then it was later on confirmed. Jon Favreau himself showed up for a little cameo voice work, playing this big bad Mando. You know, he comes in, he sees the Empire stamp, and he's just like, he mentions, he's like, those are marked by the Empire. They're from the Purge. He's like, that's the reason that we gotta hide down here like rats nowadays and only come up one at a time. And you're like, whoa, that was interesting. Can we go back to that? Maybe. I hope the show dives back into that a little bit more, and we kind of understand how, you know, the Empire kind of forced the Mandalorian out, and now they can only kind of surface at one at a time. It's just an interesting line, is to be like, we can only come out one at a time, and we're like rats down here. And you're like, huh, that's interesting. I wonder if we'll go back and learn more about that. But from that, as he's kind of getting, you know, whatever, we get another really great line from the Armorer where she goes, our secrecy is our survival, and our survival is our strength. You know, just kind of like trying to chill everything out. And Favs' Mandalorian goes, you know, our strength used to be in numbers, so F this guy and the Imperial friends that he's working with. And, like, they start to, like, fight. He tries to rip his helmet off. They both have, like, their knives, and the Armorer, again, is like, everybody, stop! You know, she's like, the Empire doesn't exist anymore, and the Beskar has returned home. And, you know, she goes to Mando. She's like, have you ever taken your helmet off? Have you ever done this? You ever done that? He's like, no. And she's like, yeah. When one chooses to walk the way of the Mandalore, you are both hunter and prey. Again, another. Favreau is just laying in these one-liners. Not necessarily, like, quotables, although they are quotable, but just important, man. Like, you get, like, that for me is, like, the equivalent of, like, you know, weapons are my religion. Here, you know, you're getting that the Mandalorian is both hunter and prey, and you're like, that's interesting. Just all these little things, man. But you know, kind of gets everyone to calm down. She's like, and you call him a coward. What coward would choose this way of life? You know, Mando, have you ever taken your helmet off? And he's like, no. She's like, has it ever been removed by any other person? He's like, no. She's like, well, this is the way. And then everybody else that's in the guild goes, this is the way. And you're just like, oh man, I love getting all these little tiny pieces that are helping build out this lore that we don't know much about, right? Like Boba Fett was this sensation everybody loved. He's a very small character. Now we've got to dive in, man, and kind of flush all this stuff out, and these conversations are super, super important. After everybody says this is the way, they kind of go their own separate ways, and the Armorer gets to armoring, man. She takes all the Beskar steel, and what she goes to the Mandalorian is... you know, first she asks, like, what caused all this damage? And he goes, Mudhorn. She goes, okay, that's going to be your signet. Last time they had spoke, she'd asked about the signet. He's like, I don't have one yet. She's like, this will be your signet. He's like, well, I didn't kill it honorably. Like, my enemy helped me. And she's like, why would your enemy help you? He's like, because he didn't know he was my enemy. I'm talking about Baby Yoda, and it wasn't his kill. So she's like, all right, fine. I'll forego your signet. We won't make that. But instead, what I'll give you are some whistling birds. With, like, the excess Beskar, and you know, Mando says just make sure that some of them go to the foundlings. You know, the foundlings are the future. This is the way. So you know, like, he's so attached to the foundlings. It has to be what he was. You know, the way. And again, we get another one of these flashbacks as the armor starts. You know, the armor starts to work up, and she also mentions, like, be weary of using, like, the whistling birds. That they're very few and far between, and they're rare, but they'll take out a lot of enemies if you're in a jam. And then we get into her making the armor. You know, like, he kind of agrees. She goes to work, and we sit there, same kind of style of swinging around the Mando as we see, even more artistic than what Filoni did in the first episode. But, you know, as we're seeing the hammers, we're getting more of the flashback, and we're seeing more than what we saw the first time. We see them, his parents running with him again. We're seeing explosions. Now we're seeing, you know, that it's very clearly something that's going on during the Clone Wars. And what's cool is, like, it's mixing in and out of, like, different things happening that she's doing that are blending into the visuals. The whole thing is just shot so beautifully. But then you get to the end, and you see them put him in that little thing. They shut it. Then we get to see more. And we hear and kind of see a little bit, because there's, like, a crack in there. Like, clearly an explosion just happened. And then, like, a shadowy figure opens it, and we see this massive droid that should be familiar to folks. Droids that look like that may have been somewhere in episodes 2 and 3, but for sure we've seen droids like that in the Clone Wars TV show that Filoni started. So now you're like, okay, yeah, there we go. That's a droid. It's a Clone War. Looks like the droid's getting ready to kill. the kid, and boom, something else takes that out, and then kind of it ends with this smash as like there's like this almost like plaster that's on top of the steel, and armor hits it, and this gray matter just kind of falls off, and this beautiful chrome piece of steel is left in its place. And the next thing we see is the Mando walking back to Carl Weathers' bar, and he is just chromed out, man. Everything is brand new. He is so sparkly and shiny, and dude, like the minute you see, you're just like, oh yeah, dude. Like this is what this guy deserves, man. This guy is so badass. He don't need some shoddy armor. He needs the good stuff, and he looks phenomenal. And again, you get this sequence where he walks in, and every single head turns and looks at him, and you're like, it's not just the Mandalorian walking in this time. Like the armor said, it'll draw attention wearing that much Beskar new steel. And it is the way he looks just draws everybody, and everybody understands that he just made a massive payday. And he sits down with Carl Weathers because he's trying to get a new bounty. And he says, they are all gonna hate you because you're a legend, man. He's like, because Mando says the same thing. He goes, how many of these fobs did you give out? It's like, they all have them, man. Like, every single one of them's got one of these fobs. But only you were good enough to bring this bounty in, man. It makes you legendary, and they are all going to hate you for it. But it makes you famous, makes me famous, because I'm kind of like partly responsible for getting you this gig. So, like, yeah, this is good stuff, man. Like, look, even I got paid. And he shows, like, a piece of Beskar steel in his coat, and he puts it back in. And like again, that's where we see, like, as they're talking, everyone's kind of looking at him. One guy goes, "Ichuta." We know that ain't good words, man. Most likely being like, "F you, Mando," like that. Oh man, like we could have had this Beskar steel money, credits on credits on credits, and you just use it to get freaking new armor. You can tell, man, that the feeling in the room is very tense. And Chow does a good job of just visually making you feel that from what's going on. But it's, the other thing that Weathers mentions is, like, it's the largest reward anyone has ever taken, man. And I'm getting to play with it as well. And this is the first moment where it's like, you're going to come back to this moment later in the episode. It's interesting that, like, he would show, like, it's foreshadowing without us really knowing it's foreshadowing. But when you get to the end of this, you're going to go, I wonder, because the Mandalorian should be taking note of everything that's going on around him, including that little motion of where the Beskar is on Carl Weathers. We'll get to that a little bit later. But Mando basically tells him, he's like, I want my next job. And Weathers says, come on, man. Like, you just got all this steel. Take some time off, man. Kick your feet up. He's like, I want my next job. And Weathers is like, all right, fine, man. I got a couple pucks left. Pick one. You can have whichever one you want. First one he picks pops up. And again, an alien creature that looks very, very familiar. And then Weathers says, that mark is a nobleman's son. And it looks like one of the characters that we've seen, one of the aliens that we've seen in the original trilogy. And I just sat there, I was going, I wonder if that's the son of the character that we're familiar with. Name is escaping me, but the visual look, as soon as you saw him, I was like, I've definitely seen that alien before, and I think he might have been a nobleman. Either way, whether it is or isn't, just the visual is, something that it can kind of attach to, remember. So then, he takes that, and then he also asks Weathers. He's like, so what are they going to do with the kid? And Weathers goes, I don't know, man. It goes against the guild code to even ask those types of things. And you can tell that it is eating Mando from the inside out, man. It's clearly bothering him, like he doesn't know what's going to happen to this poor little child. But nevertheless, Mando, takes the next gig, heads back to his ship, gets ready to take off take off from the world. And when he puts his hand on the starting stick, he sees the little ball and he kind of plays with it. And that's the minute our anti-hero is more hero than anti. And it just gets you excited because he's not going to let anything happen to little baby Yoda. At least not right yet. You hope that nothing's happened to little baby Yoda. And what's cool is you see him walk again. And people will be like, man, we just watch him walking around so much. It's important because the first 2-3 times we watched him walk through this town, very different than this time, man. This time he is checking every corner, like seeing if anyone could pop out on him, if it's gonna get him into trouble. He's mapping out his route and figuring out what he's gonna do. And you see him do all this stuff, and then he goes up on top of a roof. And after he discovers the pod and Baby Yoda's little robe, man, they threw the pod and the robe in the trash. And after he sees that, he hops up onto like a rooftop, gets out his sniper, and he's zooming. And the rifle has infrared, so you can see both Werner and the doctor kind of standing and talking. But it also can pick up sound, and it picks up like bits and pieces. And we hear Werner Herzog's client mention about extracting the necessary materials. And boom, it brought me right back to that whole egg sequence we talked about in chapter 2. Where like that foreshadowing of like the way the Jawas wanted what was inside the egg, could that translate over to Baby Yoda? Clearly it is, man. Favreau's so good with the writing on this thing, man. But so like I said, that kind of egg foreshadowing, people want whatever is inside Baby Yoda, most likely the midichlorians. So you kind of hear them talking about that. You hear Pershing, talking about, like, we're not supposed to, like, we can't kill him. You tell Pershing is trying to make sure this thing stays alive. And he mentions that he explicitly said to bring it to him alive. Again, very little dialogue in this series, but when it is delivered, it is always important. You got to pay attention to every word. And when Pershing says he, that means somebody hired Herzog to hire somebody to get Baby Yoda. Who is the he? Is the he the one who hired IG-11? You'd have to assume no, because IG was supposed to terminate him. And this he specifically said it was to be brought back in alive. And it is. It just means there's somebody out there that the Mandalorian should be taking note of that word, if we are. And I would imagine that the season is going to lead us toward whoever that he is. And Herzog basically just kind of finishes off the convo by like, just get your work done and get, whatever you got to get and be done with it, because I can't protect or guarantee your safety any longer. And it's at this part that the Mando says, all right, it's time to get to work, because they're clearly trying to finish up whatever it is they're doing. Goes down, that little eye thing comes out. He breaks it off, which draws out a couple stormtroopers. He runs around the corner, plants a little explosive device on the wall, blows a hole in the wall, and then we get to watch the Mando go to work. And it's wonderful, dude. I'm telling you, anytime my man is working, I am so in for the ride. So the explosion draws a couple stormtroopers over. Mando makes quick work of them. Then he hides. The third guy comes in. Boom, takes that guy out. He wire grabs a fourth stormtrooper, pulls him over, stabs him, goes into the back room, and gets into where Pershing is. And there's a fifth stormtrooper. He takes that guy out, and Pershing is just like, no, please don't kill me, don't kill me. He goes into kind of like one of those cowering, hiding. You can tell he's a big old pussy, man. And he's like, look. Just don't, whatever you do, man, don't hurt that child. He's like, I've done everything possible to keep the child alive. He's like, I protected it. If not for him, he'd probably already be dead. He's like, please don't kill the child. And Mando is like, I'm not going to take the child. I'm not going to hurt the child, but I'm going to take him. He grabs Baby Yoda, he wraps him up in like a blanket, and he starts moving. And, you talk about like fighting with one hand tied behind your back. Mando is basically going to have to fight his way out with one hand the rest of the way, because he's got to carry Baby Yoda. The pod was destroyed, thrown in the trash. Can't kind of keep him protected other than keeping him on his body. And then we get to see even more badass stuff from the Mandalorian, who's literally fighting with one arm. So as he's going out, he's kind of sneakily avoiding stormtroopers unless he can get the drop on them. And as he's moving around, like he can kind of silently take them out with one hand. And pardon me, but I'm reading my notes to make sure I get all of them, because this whole sequence is crazy. Because then there's another one that's outside of the room that he shoots. Another guy comes from another room, and he blasts that dude with his flamethrower, which is awesome. It just sits on him, and you see him just crumple, and he's just like all charred up. And you're like, dude, Mando's got so many options to take people down, whether it's a zapping gun, whether it's this, whether it's that. And as he's kind of clearing, he moves to find the client, and 4 troopers come out like in that room. Boom, they got him surrounded, and they're like, put your weapon down, Mando. And Mando's like, whoa, chill. This is very important. He puts the baby down, puts his gun down. He's kind of like just in this pose like this. And you immediately go, oh, he's going to use him. And sure enough, you see him kind of do one of these moves with his arm, and it sets up all of the whistling birds. Now, from what I could visually see, it looked like 4 across the top, 3 in the second row, and 1 on the bottom, which was 8. I didn't tell if I could see all of them, so I want to guess that there's maybe 10 or 11, maybe 12 of them in there. I think he only shot 4 off. As you see, they go out, and the 4 go, and they hit 2, and then you see like them whiz around, and it almost looks like he shot more than 4, but I think these whistling birds have the ability to take out more than one person at a time. I don't know. I don't think he shot his whole load of whistling birds, but he definitely uses at least 4, maybe 5. Boom, takes out all 4 of those guys, and you're like, God, man, like that was simple, but man, you were just like, yes, I love it. So after that, man, he keeps on walking, and as soon as he gets out of that building and starts heading toward his ship, you start to notice that every single person that's outside is looking at him the way they have, in a sense, the way that like every time he walks anywhere, everyone immediately turns and is looking at him, but they're all looking at him differently, man. Like, and then you see they finally show one of them has a fob and he aims it at him and he's like, boom, and you're like, more John Wick. Like, we're about to get a sequence where the Mando literally has every bounty hunter on the planet coming after him. Very much like the end of John Wick Chapter 2, where he knows that what he did is going to send, like, Chapter 3 was going to be every single assassin coming after Wick as the target, and now you're on this bounty hunter world, and literally every bounty hunter that has a fob, which is all of them, are now coming at him, and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, how's he going to get out of this? Literally, he's only got one arm, and he just kind of keeps moving towards his ship, and as he gets closer, all the bounty hunters kind of start to surround him, and boom, Carl Weathers comes out, and he's like, Mando, put down the package, man. He's like, you go. He's like, you want, and Mando's like, no, I'm not letting go of the kid. He's like, you want to protect that kid? He's like, you put it on that speeder, and off you go, man. Put it on the speeder, we'll let you leave. Mando, he's like, I ain't gonna do it, man. He's like, well, why should I even trust what you're saying right now? And Weathers is literally goes, I am your only hope. It's at this moment that you're sitting there and you're wondering, like, is Weathers really a bad guy, or is he actually trying to help the Mando out of this situation? Well, unfortunately, at least the way it plays out, Weathers is one of these bad guys, man. Like, he ain't trying to let Mando go. And there's even a moment where, like, Mando just starts shooting. He's like, bow, bow, bow. Starts running, ducking, and jumps onto that little speeder that's kind of surrounded by, like, it looks like boxes and stuff. He kind of has himself in a spot where he's semi-safe. Whips out, like, his sniper. He disintegrates a bunch of dudes, and he tells the droid, it's a droid driving speeder, he's like, drive, like, go. And he's the little R2 looking unit says something, and he's just drive, and the speeder starts moving, and you're like, okay, maybe Carl Weathers was trying to help him. Told him about the speeder. Now the speeder's gonna get away, but Carl Weathers breaks your heart. And he sits there and he brings up his gun. There's a moment of hesitation too, where you're like, maybe he's not gonna pull the trigger, and then boom, he pulls the trigger, blows up the R2 unit, and literally you have Mando cornered. He's trapped. He ain't got nowhere to go, man. Like, if he gets up to try to roll off this thing, he's screwed. There's all these people, everybody's coming down at him, and you're just like, it's all over, man. Like, he's in a situation there's literally no way he can get out of. And just as that's starting to dawn on the Mandalorian, this is the talent of the acting from who I believe is Pedro Pascal. Like I said in my previous review, if it's not Pedro in the suit, I feel like they would tell us it was somebody else so we could give that guy credit, because the physical acting is very, very good. And literally just kind of gives you a look. You can't see his eyes, you can't see his face, he's got this helmet on him. But the way he turns his head and the way he looks at things, you're just like, he's acknowledging that it's over, and he doesn't know what to do. And right as that moment is hitting, you see a rocket shoot across the sky and blow up some bad guys, and you're like, say what? And this is the moment, man, where Deborah Chow just, oh man, like, this episode was, she just was like, enjoy this, man, all over your face, neck, and chest. It was so, oh my, it's one of the most glorious looking things I've seen in a Star Wars movie in so long. But the next thing you know, man, there's like 6, 7, 8 of the Mandalorian from the covert fly up on their jetpacks, dude. Like, the one thing we haven't seen with this Mandalorian is a jetpack. You know, we've seen him use the flame shooter. We've seen him use other things that we're familiar with as far as accessories that Boba Fett had back in the day. But the one thing that the Mando does not have is a jetpack. But all the other Mandalorians got them, man. They come flying up and over, and it's just mayhem. They're just like, and you're just seeing all this pew pew. I'm sorry, it should be pew pew, like my shirt. But you're just seeing them shoot, take out all these guys, and the next thing you know, you're like, all right, dude. And Mando's just kind of like sitting there, like, I can't believe this is happening. And then who comes in but that big Mando that was voiced by Favreau? He's got not just the jetpack, man. He's got like one of them big machine guns, like built. And he just starts laying waste to people. And he looks at Mando. He's like, "Go, man, get out of here. We'll hold him off." And Mando goes, "You guys are gonna have to relocate the covert now." It's the first time we hear him use the word covert, and that's the only thing I can call that place where all the Mandos are hanging out. But the Fav Mando goes, "This is the way," and you're just like, "Oh man, I love the Mandalorians and the Mandalorian, this culture and everything about it. Like, it's just so badass." And like, even though they might have differences, when they all are understanding that like the Mandalorian are like one, they're one, right? Like, the Mandalorian are one. And you get that moment between him and Favreau's Mandalorian voiced character, and you're just like, that just completely envelops what it means to be a Mandalorian, and how the Mandalorian are always going to have each other's backs, or so at least it would seem here. Mando leaves, he takes off, man, and one of the other things that we saw during the fighting was Carl Weathers sneak off, and as Mando's getting back to his ship, you're like, oh wait, what happened to Carl Weathers? And then you see him get on the ship, and a boot comes from like the top part of the screen, and you're like, oh no, Carl Weathers is there. Sure enough, it's Carl Weathers. He's there. And he's like, "Mando!" I love the way Carl Weathers yells Mando. I can't do it like he can, but he's like, "Mando! You're not leaving, man. You're giving me the kid." And Mando's like, "I'm not giving you this kid." And, you know, Weathers like, "I didn't want to do this, man, but you broke the code." And it's at that point that, like, you know, the Mando's kind of just positioned himself in a spot where he can use his wire again, and he hits something that creates a bunch of steam, and he kind of ducks out of position, and I think Weathers might shoot once or twice, and all of a sudden Mando just goes, pew, and hits him, and you hear it hit, and you hear it hit what sounds like steel, and when you see the spark blow, it's over his heart as he gets blown back, and immediately you go, oh yeah, that moment where Weathers went like this, and then put it back in his pocket, foreshadowing the fact that Weathers was going to get shot there. The question is, was Mando going for the kill, or more likely, because Mando's super, super smart and aware of everything, Mando would have remembered that was there. And despite Weathers doing what Weathers did, mostly because what Mando did as far as within the guild was wrong, he doesn't kill Weathers. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out later on, but I think it was a choice. He could have shot Weathers anywhere. He could have shot him in the head. He could have shot him in the gut, but he shot him right at the heart, so it would look like he was trying to kill him, but right where Mando should have known there was some Beskar steel. And sure enough, Weathers isn't dead. He's okay. But by the time he kind of gets up and shakes himself off, Mando has taken off yet again, and we get just an absolutely wonderful moment as Mando's flying. First, as he's taking off, heading back up into space, we see Jon Favreau's Mando come flying in. And that was the other thing that was cool too, is after Mando left, we kind of got this like wide shot going on. That was beautiful. Like, you can just see all the Mandalorians like jumping around, and you're pretty much only seeing their stuff. You're seeing you're seeing the blaster red lasers hit, you're seeing them move around, you're just seeing guys drop all over the place as like Mando pulls away. But then as he's starting to leave for reals, we see Favreau's come flying up with his jetpack, come like this, and kind of looks over and gives one of those, and you just hear Mando go, "I gotta get me one of those." And you're like, yes you do, Mandalorian, you do gotta get you a jetpack, because I need to see you do some jetpack stuff, because dude, like, from a visual standpoint and from a choreography standpoint, the whole way Deborah Chow handles that situation is just so beautiful, so enjoyable to watch. And you just sit there and you're at the end of the episode, and you get this wonderful little moment between Mando and Jon Favreau's Mandalorian, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And then she gives you one more thing, but all of it all together is just getting you so excited for her to take on Obi-Wan. And also know that she's doing the penultimate episode, episode 7. Now, I can't speak this for other series, but Game of Thrones kind of established like a really popular way of handling, like the biggest episode is the one right before the end, and then the end kind of wraps up the story and sets up where you're going. So if that's the case here, the penultimate episode would be, once again, Deborah Chow. And if it is the most important and the biggest episode, that's exciting. If indeed episode 8 is that big episode, I'm excited there too, because Taika Waititi's going to be directing. And that just makes me go, oh, you know that IG-11 is coming back, man. Taika ain't going to do an episode without himself getting in there some way. But I've digressed, because everything that Deborah Chow did this episode got me so excited. But this last little thing that she did was like the cherry on top of the cake, man. Or the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. I don't know, put cherries on top of cakes, but anyway, man, like as he takes off and he's getting back up to space, you see little baby Yoda hop out, and you can see his hand like coming up this way. And Mando screws the ball off, drops it into his hand, and you're just like, there it is, man. That's the moment, the confirmation that our anti-hero, at least for this story, is a hero. And he is going to protect the crap out of that little baby Yoda. And I can't wait to see where we go. I can't wait to see what else we get from baby Yoda. How any other time he might use the Force. We didn't get to see him use any here because he was resting. Or being... you don't know what happened to him either, because Mando was gone for at least 15, 20, 25 minutes. And Pershing noted that he did everything he could to make sure nothing happened or nobody killed him. And Pershing didn't want baby Yoda to be killed. So it'll be interesting to see if he accomplished anything before Mando got there, because you heard Herzog tell him, finish up extracting what you have to extract, and then the Mando made his move. So it'll be interesting to see if Baby Yoda's been weakened at all, or if anything has happened to him, and how he'll be utilized throughout the series. Because you sit there and we've seen the trailers and things of that nature, and you're like, the Mandalorian's going to be in a lot of heavy artillery type situations. He can't constantly be having this little guy in his hand. He can't be one-handed all the time. So I'll be interested to see if maybe he takes baby Yoda back to Kuil. Maybe has Kuil look after him so he can go figure out what the heck's going on, or if baby Yoda's going to be riding shotgun the whole way. I'm really interested to see where that goes. I'm just interested to see what we keep doing with the Mandalorian. So it took 2 watches for me to get to the point where I was like, this is my favorite episode. But rewatching that Mandalorian ambush at the end, oh my gosh, dude. And the Mandalorian taking out all the stormtroopers and then getting out of there just one-handed. So many good things. Deborah Chow absolutely crushed it. She should be so proud of herself, and every Star Wars fan should be happy that this is what we got from her, because the thing I am probably looking forward to even more than the Mandalorian is the Obi-Wan show. And this, at least first look, makes you go, all right, man, I think I can trust Deborah Chow. And we'll certainly see what happens come episode 7 when she tells that chapter of the story. But I loved what she was doing, and I love how we continue to progress this story of the Mandalorian. And I had mentioned this in my chapter 2 review, but you get to the end of this episode, and when you watch all 3 in a row in like a string, it really does feel like the end of the first act of a movie, or in this particular case, the first act of the show. That would make you think that episodes 4, 5, and 6 will probably be kind of like an act, and then 7 and 8 will be that closing act, finish out the season, and kind of set us up for whatever we got to do next. But the sin? I tell you what, I was a fan of the sin that the Mandalorian was doing in this episode, because he saved that cute little baby Yoda. We love baby Yoda so much. Baby Yoda is everything, man, along with the Mandalorian in this show. I need them both. I need them both at all times. But another, just again, minimal dialogue, but anytime the dialogue's popping up in the show, it's super important. You gotta pay attention, because they're foreshadowing things. Sometimes they're foreshadowing within the episode. Sometimes maybe they're foreshadowing things in the future. Anytime someone's speaking in this show, it's usually pretty pointed and pretty important. And that's the best part about this show through 3 episodes, is you're not loading it in with filler or crap or nonsense that we don't need so that we fill out an hour worth of television, which makes everything that's said very important. everything that happens, very important. And I'm just in love with Jon Favreau's vision so far, and the directors that he's utilizing, I think, are just presenting that vision really, really well. So 3 episodes in, man, 3 chapters into The Mandalorian. The Sin is easily my favorite at this point, and I think it just nothing but good things should be coming. So I can't wait for next Friday. When The Mandalorian drops, I will, of course, be doing a non-spoiler review. We'll get that up right away, and probably sometime Saturday, maybe Sunday, we'll get the spoiler version of Chapter 4 up. But from here on out, man, we are going to be talking all things Mandalorian all the time. I ain't holding back no more, baby. I'm going to give you all the content. The question is, what are you thinking, man? You know every little bit about what I'm thinking as we kind of recap these episodes and dive into different things. I want to know what you're thinking, man. What was your favorite moment from the episode? Was episode 3 your favorite episode? Are you psyched about Deborah Chow's debut as the first female to ever direct a live-action Star Wars anything? That's a big deal, man, and she crushed it. Very excited about seeing Bryce Dallas Howard keep that going, be in the second next week. But what were you liking from Deborah Chow? Does it get you excited for her being in charge of Obi-Wan? Was The Mandalorian, like, are you loving what we're getting with the Mandalorian lore? Did you not like the episode? Somehow Baby Yoda just ain't winning you over every episode. Whatever it is, man, whatever you're thinking, good or bad about the Mandalorian, and of course Baby Yoda, just come out the woodworks and tell me how cute Baby Yoda is, because he is literally the cutest thing in the known universe at this point. But anything you're thinking about the Mandalorian, and of course our little buddy Baby Yoda, goes down in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to hang out with the Seaman, you like what you're getting from the Seaman when he's talking the Mandalorian, you want to be here for all of it, then there's only one thing you can do, man. You got to come join the Cinema Sitdown Squad. And how do you do that? Boom. You go over there, you hit that little subscribe button, and then if you hit that bell that's after, anytime I drop anything, you'll get an alert, but those alerts will also alert you to when we drop Mandalorian content. So do all that for the old Seaman. The Seaman will keep cranking on the Mandalorian content and content in general over here. And for the Seaman's Cinema Sitdown, ain't nobody else here but me, because I'm the Seaman. I'm signing off, man. Talk to you next week. Peace! Well, you guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. Seaman's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the Seaman goodies, join the Cinema Sitdown Squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.